The following segments are pre-recorded and sponsored by Longworth Productions.
Helping seniors on Triad Today. Hello everyone, I'm Jim Longworth and welcome to another edition of Triad Today, coming to you once again from the beautiful Senior Botanical Garden in Kernersville. We'll tell you more about them later on, and later on is when the roundtable shows up and we'll get into all sorts of controversial topics with them, so stay tuned. We have a lot of great guests and important information coming your way throughout the half hour, including a discussion about senior services in this area. But where we want to start is talking about prostate cancer, and we do that with an expert, good friend of ours, who's visiting today for the first time, Dr. Brandon Craven. He's a urologist with Novant Health Urology. Good to see you, Doc.
Nice to see you, too.
This is Prostate Cancer Awareness Month, as Bonnie was reminding me a couple days ago. So let's remind folks what prostate cancer is and how common it is.
Sure. So the prostate is a portion of the male anatomy that sits between the bladder and the urethra where you urinate. The prostate is responsible for making the fluid that makes babies, basically. Prostate cancer is the second most common cancer in men, and it occurs in up to 16% of men in their lifetime.
Is it always older men, Doc?
Not always. Mostly, but not always. The youngest man I have ever taken a prostate out of was 37.
Good Lord.
Took his prostate out.
So is it sort of genetic then if you're doing it that young? Or?
So there is a genetic predisposition to prostate cancer. About 15% of men will have that. In his case, it was genetic. He also took the prostate out of his brother. It's very common in that way.
Yeah, running in the family. All right, let's remind folks what a PSA test is and why it's important.
Sure. So PSA is an acronym for prostate-specific antigen. It is basically a blood test that allows us to evaluate the health of your prostate. PSA means a number of different things. As your prostate grows, your PSA goes up naturally, but prostate cancer makes more PSA than a regular prostate does. And so if we see a rise in PSA, that is a sign potentially prostate cancer. So we use it for that purpose.
So if I have a high level, though, does it necessarily mean I have cancer?
No, not at all. And as with any test that we do, we want to make sure the test itself is accurate. So the first thing we do is just repeat it and check it again. But if your level really is high, then we go through a process of evaluating, is this just a large prostate? Is this prostate cancer? Is this an infection? There are a lot of things it could be.
Doc, what are the treatment options if I do have prostate cancer? Is there medicines I can take? Is it always surgery? And what are some of the newer options?
Sure. So there are guidelines that help us to decide what to do. Prostate cancer, for most men, is going to be what we call localized. So it's just in your prostate. If you have localized prostate cancer, the preferred choice for most men is actually active surveillance, where we watch it and don't do anything other than just keep a close eye on it. Surgery is definitely an option. That's what I do. Radiation is an option as well. And surgery and radiation are very similar in their ultimate outcomes. And then newer treatments exist for prostate cancer with something called HIFU, which is high-intensity focused ultrasound, trying to kill the cancer without damaging the tissues around it. And then if you progress to advanced prostate cancer, so prostate cancer that has spread outside the prostate, that's where most of the research is now. There are new drugs, new treatments, new radiopharmaceuticals, things that can add years to the lives of men with it.
You spent a lot of time in training. You went to Duke, as you told me off camera, Duke and Wake Forest, and which I don't even want to get into what you do during basketball season. And they play each other. But
I haven't been to a game since I was a freshman at Duke. It's not really a major concern for me, to be honest.
Well, you have to decide what shirt to wear. Right. Anyway, my question very quickly, we're almost out of time, and you and I just met for the first time. Who or what led you into the field of medicine?
Well, so I jokingly tell people that you have to do what you love, and I love the male anatomy, although that's not really true. But
I won't even,
Right, we'll skip that. But more realistically, when I was 6, my brother was born very premature and very ill, and I watched him go through a long hospitalization and recovery. He was one of the first children in the state to survive ECMO, which was extracorporeal oxygenation system for him. I saw the doctors and nurses taking care of him, and decided then that I wanted to do that for other people.
Well, bless your heart. I'm glad you did. Up on screen, Novant Health Urology. Y'all are in Winston-Salem. You can call 277-1717 for more information. You can also visit the general website, novanthealth.org. Dr. Brandon Craven, will you come back sometime?
Absolutely.
Thanks for all you're doing, man.
Thank you.
We'll be right back after this. Here's a sad fact. In the last presidential election, over 81 million people didn't even bother to show up and vote. So it's important to register. Right, King?
Absolutely, but one of the most important part of it is education. Education is key to this election. Educating you on the policies that the candidates are talking about. Educating you on the candidates and issues, so please get educated.
This is brought to you by Ground Game Innovations.
The world's brightest are Fulbrights, Goldwaters, McNairs, and Spartans. Prestigious doesn't have to be expensive. UNCG, find your way here.
Back now on Triad Today. Always glad we can spend a few minutes from the good folks from Duke Energy. And on the right, my good friend Jimmy Fleith, who's Director of Government Community Relations for Duke Energy, and our special guest that Jimmy brought along with him, Lewis Duke. He's manager of the Duke Energy Foundation. And I thought he was, the head of all of Duke Energy because his name is Duke. He said he's not, so we don't need you on this segment. No, it's good to have you. Good to see both of you.
Thank you.
Jimmy, the foundation, before I get to Lewis, foundation's been doing some great things to help small businesses, and we've read about it.
Yeah.
You've talked about it on the media, but now, how so? How is that you've been helping small businesses, and why have we asked Lewis to join us?
Yeah, well, it's great. We just completed a $700,000 grant program across the state where we awarded 20 organizations that will actually work with small businesses to give them some micro grants, $1,000 to $5,000, kind of street level improvements.
Right.
And had a couple of recipients here in the Triad, Greensboro downtown and Winston-Salem downtown, both applied and were awarded. So,
Lewis, what's the actual mission of the foundation, and how are you all funded?
Yeah, the Duke Energy Foundation is really proud to power the vitality of our communities that Jimmy just spoke to through philanthropy that's focused on vibrant economies, climate resilience, and justice, equity, and inclusion. The foundation is funded by Duke Energy shareholders, and it's actually our 40th anniversary, so we've gotten to look back and see that we are really rooted in the company's commitment to service and citizenship and showing up well in community.
Well, sort of piggybacking on what you're saying and what Jimmy mentioned, what are the priorities in terms of how you give grants and the type of organizations that get them? What are your priorities?
We work with local nonprofits across all the communities we serve in many, many parts of North Carolina, and we fund in our focus areas and really look to have a strong local impact. In the past 40 years, the foundation has actually made more than $500 million in grants to support local organizations that are really working on impact and improvement in communities.
Now, not to get into the weeds on this too much, but are the grants all the same amounts, or is it varying according to the organization? Or?
They can certainly vary. We work well with our partners to determine what their best needs are, and we also have a lot of volunteerism. Our team last year did about 100,000 hours, and that translates to about $4 million of value.
That's right, Jimmy. You had mentioned that a couple months ago, that we know out at Ballew's and some other places that Duke Energy employees actually volunteer for agencies and nonprofits, and so that makes a big difference in helping these agencies, right?
It really does.
Lewis, what kind of feedback have you gotten over time from the folks who receive the grants and the way they're working?
I think they're always grateful to see contributions, of course. They're always looking for that good partnership, but they're also looking for volunteerism, hands and boots on the ground, and that good grassroots community support. And I think that's one of the things that makes a difference for our philanthropy is we have staff across the state that really are in local communities and work with local organizations that are making a real difference in North Carolina. So
say I've got an organization, a nonprofit or something, I think we're doing good work, and I say, gee, I saw Jimmy and Lewis on the show. How does somebody apply, and is there a time frame that you can apply?
We take grants every day of the year round. They can apply on our website. They can search Duke Energy Foundation online and find us there, connect with a local contact, and we're happy to connect with them and talk further about how we can partner.
Yeah, I'll put that up on screen in just a second. But Jimmy, as we wrap up, any final thoughts on the mission, the service, the folks?
Yeah, well, Duke Energy is committed to the communities that we serve, And the Duke Energy Foundation is just one way that we can give back and be a good corporate citizen and be involved in the communities that we serve. And would encourage anybody that's interested, go on the website, look at the priorities, and kind of see if your organization makes a fit. We obviously get more grant requests than we have money to give out across the state.
Right.
But as Lewis said, I think it's about $30 million a year in North Carolina that we donate, and so it does help.
Yeah. And you said it's coming from shareholders and not just you because your name is Duke.
Exactly.
Up on screen, duke-energy.com is the website. That's Duke. Let me say it again, duke-energy.com, because seriously, as Lois mentioned, that's where you want to go to find out how you can apply. And she said you can do that pretty much 24/7. Just do the application. And you also find out other services and great things that are going on from Duke Energy. To Jimmy and Lois, thanks for everything you guys are doing.
Thanks for having us.
We'll be right back after this. Hi, I'm Jim Longworth, reminding you that Triad Today is now streaming on WFMY Plus, available free on Roku and Amazon Fire TV. Back now on Triad Today, and it's time for us to plug in. And they say, what do you mean, Jim? Well, we're going to tell you what that plug in means in just a second. And we have an expert in the field. With us right now, Jesse Day, Director of Planning for Piedmont Triad Regional Council. Good to see you, sir.
Good to see you, Jim.
Before we get to what plug in the Piedmont means, because I'm intrigued by that email you sent me, let's remind everybody what the mission of PTRC is.
Yeah. The mission of the Piedmont Triad Regional Council is to solve creative regional solutions by working with our members of our community to improve their lives. And so we do that in a lot of different ways. Different folks will have different touch points with our organization. So we have a community development program, works on housing solutions, weatherization. We have area agency on aging, criminal justice, workforce and economic development. I work in regional planning, and so we work directly with our member communities. We cover a 12-county region, over 75 member governments of all different sizes.
Now, this email I referred to, you said, Jim, I want to talk about something called Plug in the Piedmont. Now, what's that all about, and how does that align with your mission?
Yeah, so we're looking for funding for this Plug in the Piedmont initiative, and it's to build charging infrastructure, electric car charging infrastructure across the Triad. And so we are seeking funding from the bipartisan infrastructure bill funding at the federal level to build out a charging network for electric vehicles.
That'd be
finding
great.
that we're finding that certain parts of our region do not have a charging infrastructure, and so that's going to help achieve carbon reduction emissions, sustainable development, and improve public health for our member communities.
So you probably just answered this, but how is that going to improve the long-term implications of all this? What would that be?
Yeah, so by working with our member communities, we hope to build out that network. And so, we've had some great economic development announcements like Toyota battery manufacturing in North Carolina. So making sure that all parts of our region have access to electric vehicles. The convergence of cost of electric and combustion engine vehicles are now about the same.
Right.
But if you don't have a place to charge your car, how are you going to adopt that? And the cost of operation after you purchase a car is much lower. So this Plug in the Piedmont is going to fill in those gaps. And so we're going to locate those charging stations at apartment buildings. We're going to locate them at recreation centers, community centers, areas where they don't exist right now, and collaborate across several communities across the Triad.
Yeah, you say collaborate. That was going to be my next question. How does PTRC sort of bring all these counties and municipalities together in collaboration, and what are the benefits of that collaboration?
Right. Great question. Yeah. So the opportunity of that regional collaboration is, an individual community is not going out and negotiating a price on electric vehicle charging stations individually with that company. So we are working with over a dozen communities. We're going to purchase, if we're successful on this grant, we hope to be, over 100 charging stations. And so we'll be able to negotiate on the price of the infrastructure, the installation, leverage credits for that installation of that infrastructure. And so the other part too, once the chargers are in place, we'll be able to manage them together. If you're an electric vehicle driver, sometimes you have to get a new app every time you go to a different charging station. So our hope is that we'll have one app where you can go to all these charging stations and not have to spend time downloading new software.
Break down those barriers and everything. Before time runs out, speaking of time, do you have a time frame when there's going to come a time where all this is going to be in place?
Well, we hope to submit this fall this grant application. It's over $2.5 million grant to purchase those 100 charging stations, over 100 charging stations, and then probably 3 to 6 month turnaround time. So spring of 2025, we hope to be up and going. We'll plug in the Piedmont.
All right, up on screen, ptrc.org is the general website, and you can get all sorts of information about what this fine organization does. And again, folks like Jesse work behind the scene every day to make things better for all of us, and so it's nice to have him out front here for a few minutes. Thanks, Jesse.
Thank you, Jim.
We'll be right back after this.
North Carolina's economy is growing, bringing new businesses and opportunities. The need for electricity is growing too. At Duke Energy, we're meeting the challenge, providing even more electricity that's cleaner, reliable, and that stays affordable. We're getting out of coal and reinvesting in our communities with a diverse, balanced mix of energy sources and making targeted upgrades to the grid so that North Carolina can thrive in a smarter energy future.
Back now on Triad Today, and in a nutshell, this program has been about for 21 years or so, about community service. And we continue on that theme, certainly, with these two very special guests. On my immediate right, David Fowler. He's Vice President of Operations for Modern Automotive Network, sort of filling in for our good friend Ashton, his cousin, who was a little under the weather, and we thank you for filling in, David.
Glad to be here.
And David's special guest, Joel McIver. He's Vice President of Communication and Engagement for Senior Services, Inc. Good to see you, sir.
Nice to be here.
Joel, let me hold you in abeyance for a second. Let me go to David first. David, why do you and your family, and because there's a lot of Fowlers out there, why do you and your family and the Modern family, why are you so supportive of senior services?
Well, through our Modern Makes a Difference initiative, the company really focuses on two key aspects. One is helping the youth in our community grow, learn and succeed. And really the second is focusing on marginalized communities and alleviating disparities in those communities. And Senior Services is a great example of that. We've been a proud partner of theirs for years, sponsor the art show, Meals on Wheels, the volunteer luncheon. Really, it's an incredible organization with a group of incredible volunteers that has a far-reaching impact on our community, and we're proud to be a partner of theirs.
Yeah, always you and your family have been very inspirational. And I'm just not saying this because you're sitting there, but I know as a teenager, I sort of followed your lead and did Meals on Wheels a little bit of that. Hey, Joel, let's remind people, what is Senior Services? What's the mission? And who do you serve?
Okay, well, Senior Services is a private nonprofit serving older adults in Forsyth County. And we exist, really, to put it simply, to help older adults remain in their homes for as long as possible. We want to help them to age with dignity and to live with purpose. And that's why we go to work every day.
What are the needs of our seniors and I should know this. People are going to look at me and think I'm being fakey because I'm over 70, and I should know what the needs of senior citizens are. But I'm going to get you to sort of capsulize it for us, Joel. What are there changing needs that you've seen among the senior community, and how does that stack up?
Absolutely. And it's almost a difficult question to answer because the needs are many, and they're different for different seniors and older adults in our community. But generally speaking, older adults, even before the pandemic, but especially since the pandemic, have been having more and more difficulty with isolation, with loneliness, with being able to get out into the community to get the things that they need.
Right.
Even some of the activities of daily living in their homes, bathing, getting dressed.
Right.
For a lot of older adults, those things are hard.
Before time gets away from us, very quickly, Joel, I heard or maybe I had an email you sent me, or Ashton sent me, it's something about an intergenerational center. Very quickly, what is that?
We opened the Intergenerational Center for Arts and Wellness last November. We call it the Generation Center for short.
Right.
And it has been amazing. This is a 6,500 square foot building with 21 organizational partners where we are trying to create an opportunity for older adults, or actually people of all generations, to come together, to learn, to interact, to engage, and basically live their best lives.
And what does support from folks like Modern mean to your mission?
Everything. I'm not saying that because you're sitting here, but Modern and even some other organizations have stepped up for things like our art show and sale, which supports Meals on Wheels, our volunteer appreciation luncheon, where every year we want to show those 1,000 to 1,200 volunteers that we appreciate the
Very
time.
important.
Yeah.
Very important.
Yeah, and so having the support of these organizations like Modern means everything.
Really fits in with your whole mission, doesn't it, David?
Absolutely.
It does, yeah. It's a very rewarding program, and I encourage other individuals and businesses in the community to volunteer and to partner with you guys, because it's incredibly rewarding.
Up on screen,
Really
I want
is.
to put a couple things here up on screen. SeniorServicesInc.org is a website you can go to learn all about that, and please volunteer if you would. And also, you can go to modernauto.com and find out all sorts of things. Or I could just give you David's home phone. You can call him and ask him. David, thanks for all you do in the community, and Joel, same here.
Thanks for having me.
All right,
Thank you.
gentlemen. We'll be right back. Hi, I'm Jim Longworth, reminding you to catch my column Longworth at Large and Yes Weekly every week. It's available throughout the Triad, or you can go online, yesweekly.com.
Spartans are the teachers, artists, nurses, scientists, and leaders who build our communities.
Back now on Triad Today, just about time for the roundtable, but a quick shout out to our good friends here at Senior Botanical Garden in Kernersville. Please check out the garden, the website, come out here and see things. It's always beautiful, always something going on. And something going on right now, next to me on the right, but the political left always, Ogie Overman, the great broadcaster and journalist, the great educator, Dr. Don Martin, who happens to also be the chairman of Forsyth County Board of Commissioners, and Mr. Theater, Dave Briggs, pays a visit to us. He has his own consulting company now. And we're going to do the roundtable. The first question, guys. Winston-Salem Forsyth County schools have plenty of metal detectors, but they don't use them every day. Now, after another loaded gun was found in the local high school, Forsyth Sheriff Bobby Kimbrough says we need to use them every day. But school officials say they don't have the staff to take care of it. Guys, should lottery funds be used to pay for extra security staff, or what's the solution, Ogie?
It's a sad day, Jim. I hate to say it, but given this gun culture that we live in, until we can figure out a way to change it, I think you're going to have to
Figure out a way.
pat them down, every one of them.
Done.
Well, I guess from a money standpoint, but the money's already budgeted everything that they have. So it's a question of you're probably talking hiring 2 people at school probably to do that for a period of time to rotate. Big expense. The sheriff, by the way, the resource officers do not participate in any kind of metal
They do metal
detectors.
detecting, yeah.
They do not do that.
Should they?
Yes, I think they should help.
All right.
I
Dave.
didn't know that, Don. My concern here is maybe the schools need to be training a couple of people to actually man those metal detectors for the time that folks are coming in and out of the building.
Double duty.
Double duty, just like coaches do, and so on. Maybe
All right.
maybe that would help.
North Carolina's community colleges are facing a $69 million shortfall. There are 58 schools in the system. Meanwhile, the state has a surplus of $1.4 billion. Guys, should legislators be called back into session to fund the shortfall right now? Or should we just leave the shortfall where it is? I mean, the surplus where it is. Ogie.
No, I mean, 69 million isn't all that much when you're compared to 1.4 billion. And community colleges are really important. I mean, Don knows that more than anybody, and I think they should, yeah.
Don.
Well, community colleges are certainly important. I think the question that you say, should they, the question is it will not happen because that's a decision of the legislature to call themselves back into session.
Right.
Want to do that, the governor to get into it. And I think we sort of know where they are at the moment.
Dave.
Having worked for the community college system for 17 years of my career, I think they should need to be called back in, and I think it needs to be settled now. But they need to figure out a way down the line so that they don't end up with this. The community colleges have always been in the back burner for education in North Carolina.
Yeah, Dave, and if it's not settled now you're getting people laid off eventually, with that kind of, or courses ended. There's a shortage of election workers nationwide. I won't get into why, but and people being intimidated if they say the wrong thing or whatever. It's a sad situation. Anyway, Nebraska has created a new system to require residents to work the polls. It's a system just like jury summons. Good idea or bad idea? Would you like to see North Carolina do the same thing? Ogie.
Well, you kind of buried the lead there, Jim. I mean, the why is we know why. We know this. But
people who say there was a stolen election, and then they go to people's homes who work the polls and threaten them.
Poll watchers there that are trying to look for any kind of.
But a jury summons type system. What do you think?
I don't think so. It's always been people who really are into, making elections work. I think there's a way to market it and round up enough people to do it.
Done.
I think that might be worth a try. I probably see that it's a civic service, just like being on a jury, and
right.
Could be trained. Takes a little time to do that, but it could be done.
Dave,
I think it's great and a very interesting concept. Would I like to see it happen here? Yeah, I roll it out and let's see what happens, and then go back to the old way if it doesn't work.
All right. How much time do we have? About two. Let me skip over to this here. I know what I was going to say. The North Carolina Supreme Court just informed the Ace Speedway in Elmas County that it may proceed with its lawsuit against the state health secretary for having closed down the racetrack during the pandemic. You might remember when that happened. Speedway owners say that the closure back then violated their constitutional rights and, of course, cost them tons of money. Guys, who wins this case? Ogie.
Well, how many people had to close down their businesses during the pandemic?
A lot, and they went out of business. They went out of business, too.
And tough. Too bad, Ace. Get over it.
So you don't think they'll win?
No.
Don Martin, what do you think?
I probably think that they will not win either. I think the Department of Health and Human Services in an emergency, declared emergency, has broad powers, and I think that they'll win that.
All right, Dave, a lot of people said that Cooper should have consulted with his council of state on these closures.
Well, I think there's a whole lot of other stuff that went on with this. So Dr. Mandy and Josh Stein and Governor Cooper shut down all of these businesses. I'd like to see this go to the Supreme Court, because I think ACE has a really good case here, along with all these other venues and places that Ogie just alluded to. They have a case.
And so far, they've got the state Supreme Court says you can go ahead with it, but like you said, if it keeps going, they might get to the Supreme Court in Washington. Okay, finally, scientists have discovered that beer contains small traces of female hormones. Guys, have you ever drunk beer? And if you did you feel more feminine? Ogie.
Well, let me say this. Since I quit drinking, I haven't dressed in drag. So maybe there's something to it.
Don, have you felt more feminine after drinking beer?
I have not.
To both things?
No, I have consumed
but
beer,
not felt.
but I have not
Dave?
felt feminine.
Only when I drink Stella Artois.
I don't, man, I tell you, all right. Well, that's all the time we have. Oh, except for this. We've just now learned that at the recent Democratic National Convention, police are now looking for somebody that put insects in the breakfast buffet there at the convention. I've heard of bugging political candidates, but that's ridiculous. All right. That's gross, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right, for all of us here, Triad Today. I'm Jim Longworth. We'll see you next week.